I'm Peter Watson and I live in a stretch of the Mary River near Conondale. We've been here 40 years and milking cows for 30 years on the pastures. We sort of value the river as a resource. It provides us with water for feed and an environment to live in that's pleasant.
I'm Elke Watson. We live on the Mary. There's about 3 kilometres of river frontage here that we have, but we also live within a community. And the river doesn't belong to one person, it belongs to the community as a whole. What we do has impacts both upstream and downstream. What we do affects the water that you drink in Gympie, Sunshine Coast now as well, affects the water that you drink in Maryborough. So how we look after a river is not just the individual. We might just happen to be the custodians of this short bit here, but that river, it's the lifeblood of the community.
We have seen changes in the dynamics of the river over 40 years and the riverbed has lowered. We realised there was a problem with erosion on the river. The problem was, how did you solve it? And looking at different methods of solving it and balancing up the funding for it, whether it be in-house or external funding, that was the issue. And I guess for a few years you just kicked the can down the road.
Yeah, that sedimentation is a really serious issue. It's hard to get your head around how far down it goes. We're a long way from the mouth of the river, but it does. You know, it doesn't settle out in a flood. The cost of riverbank slumpage or the cost of the change in that, it's huge for the environment. It's huge for what it does to the Great Barrier Reef, but it's also a huge significant impact on the individual dairy farms. The Great Barrier Reef Foundation is obviously the peak body that looks after this funding that's going towards doing environmental work for the reef to prevent any more degradation. Everyone loves the idea of having a reef, and you know, we have celebrated films around it, and the reef is something that Australia is known for. But to make sure that that reef remains viable and is there for everyone, well, every little person along all the rivers that contribute to that reef have to do their bit.
The opportunity came to do some work and we went forward with it, and we know that in the flooding events after the polar fields were put in, the science works.
We're standing down here at the reed veg site that's associated with the pile fields that we did. You can see these trees here, many of them planted back in 21, I think it was. But this whole riverbank, we have about 3 kilometres of riverbank frontage, and we've been planting trees and revegetating that for 30 or 40 years. When we started dairying here 30 years ago, we were known as the weirdo greenies who fenced off riverbanks. But that attitude to fencing off, to looking after not just how good your pasture is, but the environment, and the environment for you as well as for the community, it's something that takes generational change. I find it absolutely amazing up here that we're not an outlier at all anymore. Everyone fences off up this area, and big areas of the whole Mary are now fenced off. They may not be fenced off for every day of the year, but generally they're trying to get more vegetation in there to preserve those riverbanks for the turtles, for the fish, for the birds, the wildlife, the platypus that are in there. It's good stuff to see. It's about trusting people to come on, trusting that this is the right thing to do, that it really is money well spent. You know, you open up your farm to let people in. We had no hesitation about that, and it actually proved to be even better than we expected. It was great having them here. You can't just use up country for your own financial or short-term gain. You need to make sure that you're thinking about people who come after us.